mountain, a symbol of wild freedom. Freedom that we all long for, but especially the American rural landowner. Are you an American rural landowner? Have you been a victim of government abuse and overregulation? Do you have a government horror story to tell regarding your land and attempts to seek permits or permission to conduct some action on your land that have been thwarted every step of the way? Or has the government condemned your land under eminent domain? You are not alone. There are millions just like you. We want to hear and tell your story by newsletter, email, and YouTube video so that others may know the plight of the American rural landowner. Hello, my name is Ron Ewers, and I am the president of the National Association of Rural Landowners, or NARLO, a non-profit corporation dedicated to preserving, protecting, and defending the property rights of rural landowners throughout America. Government has taken away almost every property right we ever had. NARLO was born out of the misery that rural landowners had suffered from government abuse and overregulation. We are attacking the root causes of this abuse rather than trying to fix the symptoms. American rural landowners must unite in defense of their constitutional property rights or face losing them forever. Most rural landowners are unaware that they are being asked to bear almost the entire burden of environmental protection, while their city brethren get off virtually scot-free. All across America, rural landowners are facing draconian environmental acts, laws, rules, regulations, restrictions, and ordinances that take away their right of use and decrease their property values. Most aren't aware of these rules until they try to do something with their property, like build or remodel a home, erect a barn, install a fence, drill a well, put in an on-site sewage treatment system, or grow crops or run livestock in the vicinity of wetlands, dry washes, creeks, streams, rivers, lakes, or the ocean. When you try to do it right and obey the laws, you find that your costs are out of sight, and the time to get the permits to do what you want to do can stretch into months and years. Even after going through the hoops and frustration and spending thousands of dollars, many have denied their permits. Code enforcement officers roam the rural roads and look for some code violation so that they can levy fines and penalties, or yes, even criminal offenses that end in jail time. Neighbors call in code violations to government and turn neighbor against neighbor. Some landowners who have obtained permits have later had their permits pulled or have had the criminal charges brought against them for some environmental code violation that was brought up after the work had begun. Take the story of Mr. Smith and his son. Fined, convicted, and locked up in federal prison. It's hard to believe that you can become a convicted felon for something like this. Those are the words of Mr. Smith. He and his son were found guilty of violating the Clean Water Act for placing 19 loads of fill dirt on their seafront property. They were fined and served 21 months in federal prison. After their time in prison, they had to restore the property to its original wetland elevation. It started in 1986 when the Army Corps of Engineers served a cease and desist order for polluting the navigable waters of the United States. Even though Smith had all the proper permits and was working in the area that the Corps had agreed was not a wetland, the Corps forced Smith into federal court. With no money to hire an attorney, Mr. Smith and his son went to trial in January of 1989. The odds were stacked against them when the three attorneys from the Justice Department, the Corps of Engineers, and the Environmental Protection Agency moved to disallow all of their evidence, which showed he was working lawfully with the approval of the state regulatory agency. Unfortunately, the judge still allowed Smith to be charged under a federal indictment for wetlands violation. I couldn't believe it. My knees went weak. Up to that point in time, I didn't even have a speeding ticket, said Mr. Smith. In 1996, a juror in Smith's original trial came forward and admitted publicly that I felt almost threatened or intimidated by the jury foreman during the trial. The jurors were pre-decided against the Smiths by information which we received from the foreman. which was not part of the evidence. The juror is referring to information about the Smiths that the jury foreman had received in confidence from his son, who worked for the State Water Management Office. The Smiths' fight for justice is a remarkable story, and it continues to this day as they work to right a wrong that not only vindicates the Smiths, but other Americans facing corrupt environmental agencies as well. All across America, horror stories of government abuse and overregulation being inflicted on rural landowners abound. But most Americans are unaware of these stories, and the victims are forced to face Goliath all alone. Narlow believes these stories must be told for us to gain a foothold in reversing this travesty of injustice perpetrated on rural landowners by local, state, and the federal government, and the wealthy, powerful, and politically influential environmental groups that incessantly lobby government. To that end, we are publishing these stories in our newsletter and frequent email messages to our members and interested parties. We are also creating YouTube videos for the sole purpose of putting faces, grievances, and photographs of the land on video for all the world to see. We will also be sending these written and video stories to print and electronic news outlets and legal foundations all across America. It is possible that one of these foundations just might pick up your horror story and challenge the government in court to right the wrong that has been visited upon you. To have your story told in our newsletter, our frequent emails, and a YouTube video, join the National Association of Rural Landowners by logging on to our website at www.narlow.org and click on the Join Donate link. Once you have become a member, send us your horror story in writing by U.S. mail or email. Include pictures of you and your family, your pets, your favorite animals, and pictures of your land and home. Describe how you have been wronged by your government and how you feel about what government has done to you. Register your emotions, whether it be tears, frustration, or anger. Emotion plays well on those who are reading, hearing, or seeing your story. Let us know whether you want your names and location appearing in the story, or whether you would prefer that we not use your name and location to prevent further government abuse. We have set up a special YouTube section to air these horror stories. Each story will have its own YouTube video. We want to have hundreds of these video stories being broadcast all over America. The plight of the rural landowner must be heard loud and clear. Join Narlow today and get your story out there where other folks who have had similar stories realize that they are not alone. And those who have not been victims of government abuse understand the real devastation that is being inflicted on law-abiding rural landowners who are being asked to bear almost the entire burden of environmental protection, a burden that violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Write down our website now, www.narlow, that's NARLO.org, O-R-G, or call us at 1-800-682-7848 during normal business hours, Monday through Friday. That number is 1-800-682-7848. Thank you.